A video plays, showing a crowd of people gathering around someone dressed in a bear costume. The man removes his costume in front of a girl and confesses his love, asking her to be his girlfriend. However, the girl bluntly rejects him, stating that they have only known each other for a month. She then insults his appearance, declaring that she will never like him because he doesn't deserve her. The crowd laughs and continues to record the humiliating scene. Suddenly, another girl appears, tries to disperse the crowd, and tells him to stop filming. In the present, the man who was rejected in the video sits in front of his computer, watching his own humiliation. He lowers his head in frustration and attempts to eat away his sorrow, taking a bite from his burger. While crying, he receives a call from his childhood friend Lacey, who happily invites him to her birthday party. With tears streaming down his face, he wishes her a happy birthday. Unaware of his distress, Lacey encourages him to join her and her friends at a karaoke bar to celebrate. However, Chen abruptly ends the call, leaving Lacey disappointed. One of her friends urges her to forget about Chen and enjoy the feast they prepared for her, but Lacey can't help worrying about her childhood friend. Back in his room, Chen continues to wallow in misery. He receives a message from Lacey, who tries to cheer him up by reminding him how he will always be her brightest dawn. Chen mumbles repeated apologies to himself, devouring his food as tears fall. He feels utterly useless, unworthy of being called Lacey's friend. He continues to gorge on food uncontrollably until suddenly a piece of food gets lodged in his throat, leaving him unable to breathe. He falls off his chair, collapsing to the ground with a heavy thud. And that's how Chen ate himself to death. He never achieved anything in life, and even in death, he remains a loser. As he descends into the abyss of the void, memories of his childhood flood his mind. He recalls being bullied for his weight since he was young. Most of his classmates avoided sitting next to him because they said it felt stifling. Even his own mother abandoned him when his father fell ill and later passed away from cancer. She left him alone when he needed her most. Chen continues to plunge deeper into nothingness. As the cold darkness envelops him, he hears a voice announcing that he has unlocked the ultimate starter pack for newbies. A blinding light surrounds him, and everything goes blank. After a while, Chen slowly opens his eyes and notices his hands feel sticky. Confused about being alive, he gets up and turns on a light in his room. When he looks into the mirror, he is utterly shocked. His entire appearance has changed. He has lost a significant amount of weight. Chen pinches himself in front of the mirror, unable to believe that this is all real. However, the pain he feels confirms that he is not dreaming. As he admires his new appearance, a voice inside his head speaks again, informing him that he has successfully acquired the beginner's gift pack. He panics, looking around for the source of the voice. The voice continues, explaining that he is the destined chosen one and introducing itself as his intelligent sensory hub, Nicholas. Chen is stunned for a moment, but eventually accepts his situation, recognizing similarities to fantasy games and comics he's familiar with. He activates the system, and it explains that his fat-to-scale exchange system allows him to trade fat for skill points, unlocking a cheat mode journey to his best life. Since he had a lot of fat before, Chen assumes this will be enough to make him strong. Testing his theory, he slams his hand on the table, only to feel incredible pain. This proves him wrong, and he concludes that he is still a loser. Nicholas encourages him, assuring him that his skills will unlock as he levels up. Additionally, the system has prepared a starter gift for him. He has unlocked an ultimate mealtime companion called Mouth Part Enhancement. Chen finds this bizarre and doubts its legitimacy as a skill. Nicholas explains that upon activation, the system boosts the host's body, granting a complete enhancement to senses and endurance. As the system begins to explain the most crucial part of the skill, Chen is interrupted by a frantic call from Lacey, who is desperately asking for his help. Meanwhile, on the other line, one of Lacey's friends, who has shown interest in her, is furious that she turned him down. The man accuses her of leading him on, claiming that all he has done is treat her well. He demands to know what he lacks compared to her loser friend. Lacey attempts to move past him, but the man forcefully grabs her hand, showing no intention of letting her go. As dread begins to consume Lacey, the door to the room suddenly bursts open, revealing Chen. Enraged, he demands the man release Lacey. However, the door comically closes on him, making him flustered. Trying again, he barks at the men to free Lacey. Looking pathetic, the men laugh at him. Despite this, Chen remains unfazed and once more demands they let the girl go. The man, visibly frustrated, barks back at him for daring to order him around. Chen suddenly realizes he acted rashly and seeks the system's help. Nicholas informs him that, due to his current low level, the only skill he can use is the initial one he received, King's Contempt. This skill requires 0 energy points and is designed to deliver a crushing mental blow to his target. Chen imagines what might happen if he overwhelms the men with this ability. However, as he becomes lost in thought, the leader notices him zoning out and confronts him. Ignoring the leader, Chen turns his attention to Lacey, assuring her that he will handle the situation and keep her safe. Meanwhile, Lacey struggles to figure out who he is. The leader laughs at Chen, mocks his arrogance, and warns him to worry about himself instead. Chen then unleashes his skill, causing the leader to feel unbearable pain in his head and kneel in desperation. Smiling in satisfaction, Chen realizes the skill worked. He marvels at its power, amazed he didn't even have to lift a finger to inflict damage. The system informs him that there's a 5% chance the skill might impose berserk on his enemy, driving them into a frenzy and causing them to lose all sense of reason. As he contemplates this, the leader suddenly goes berserk, grabs him by the collar, and begins assaulting him. Chen realizes this is the effect of his skill, and frustrated, calls it lame while begging Nicholas for help. Unfortunately, the system informs him that his points have run dry and redeeming additional skills is impossible. As the leader continues his assault, Chen turns to Lacey for help, but she runs off, refusing to assist him. Chen feels his last ounce of hope slip away as he realizes his childhood friend doesn't recognize him due to his new appearance. Just then, the leader shoves him into a nearby table, causing him to hit his back with a loud thud. Despite being injured, Chen wills himself to fight back. The leader then approaches Chen with a bottle in his hand. Chen tells him to go away, but the leader, still in berserk mode, doesn't listen. Desperately, Chen looks around for something he can use as a weapon and notices leftover food on the table. Without hesitation, he begins to eat the food, burning laughter and looks of disgust from the other men. They mockingly call him a pig, ridiculing him for worrying about eating when he's about to die. Unbothered by their taunts, Chen continues gobbling down the food. The men jeer at his greediness, telling him that scarfing down food like a maniac won't save him. The frenzied leader finally reaches Chen, sarcastically asking if he's had his fill. At that moment, Chen hears Nicholas inform him that he has accumulated enough points to redeem another skill. Without hesitation, Chen confirms he wants the skill. As the leader raises the bottle to strike him, the mental resonance skill activates, stopping the leader mid-fight. Suddenly, tears stream down the leader's face as a wave of overwhelming bitterness engulfs him. He drops the bottle and begins crying uncontrollably, professing his love for Chen. The leader, heartbroken by the sight of Chen all bruised and battered, starts lamenting the pain Chen must have endured. In the leader's altered perception, Chen appears as a charming and lovely man, though in reality, Chen is seething with anger at the very person who attacked him. Oblivious to this, the leader lovingly hugs Chen, his emotions and pheromones entirely influenced by the mental resonance skill. Chen is in utter disbelief at the bizarre turn of events. He rejects the leader's advances and shifts his attention to the other men, jokingly wondering if any of them might like him instead. Devastated by the rejection, the leader turns to his friends for solace, seeking comfort in their support to mend his broken heart. Just then, Lacey arrives with the authorities, having reported the incident. To her shock, she finds the men enjoying themselves together, completely oblivious to the earlier chaos. Later, Chen sits alone, reflecting on the strange events. Determined, he vows to become a better version of himself so he can protect himself and those he cares about. Suddenly, his stomach rumbles and he heads home to eat. The next day, Chen receives a call from his colleague asking if he has forgotten about his part-time job, adding that today is payday. Hearing this, Chen rushes to get out of bed, but immediately falls down. When he looks in the mirror, he finds himself super thin and frail. This disappoints him as he had promised himself the day before to do his best to become a better person. Nicholas informs him that he has overdrawn himself and needs to replenish his energy by consuming more fats. Despite his incredibly weak body, Chen pushes himself to find food. When he opens his fridge, the only thing he finds is a hot pot base, and with no other choice, he gobbles it up. Later, on his way to work, Chen swears that he will never eat hot pot again in his life. However, Nicholas warns him that his fat reserves are still insufficient to sustain his daily system functions and insists he must keep eating. Chen finally arrives at his job. He heads straight to the locker room to change into his uniform, but is surprised to find it empty. He calls out for his colleague, Leo, but realizes that no one is around as they are on their lunch break. Looking around the kitchen, Chen spots scrumptious food laid out on the table. Overwhelmed by a strong desire to eat, Chen struggles to control himself, but eventually gives in. He grabs a burger and starts devouring it, soon eating everything while crying and worrying if his paycheck will be enough to cover the cost. With this act, he unlocks another skill, powerful saliva capable of dissolving anything into powder, enhancing his digestion to better transform fat into energy. Chen finds this ridiculous and wishes for a skill that could be more beneficial. As he continues eating, Chen hears Leo's voice. He peeks out and sees Leo being scolded by the owner for being clumsy and for Chen's tardiness. The owner tells Leo never to come back again. Leo, however, refuses to leave without being paid for their month's work. The other crew members laugh at him as the owner mocks him, saying he should focus on scraping off his fat so he can fit into a coffin. She cruelly tells him to get out of her sight, accusing him of ruining everyone's appetite and blocking the entrance. With a wicked look on her face, she orders him to leave. Seeing his friend being bullied, Chen is filled with rage. Without realizing it, he grips a bottle of sauce in his hand so tightly that the sauce squirts into the owner's face. The woman turns in his direction, her face contorted with pure rage. Seeing her anger, Chen starts to panic, frantically contemplating what to do next. Remorseful, he reveals himself and apologizes to the owner. However, in the owner's eyes, he is not a random loser, but a charming young man who looks like a lost puppy. Seeing him so pitiful, the owner changes her mood and tells him it was not a big deal. Realizing that he is off the hook, he tries to humor her and stay on her good side. The woman tells him that he has definitely come to the right place as their bar has delicious food. After this remark, he walks past her and pulls Leo with him, declaring that he will treat him to lunch. Instead of getting insulted, the owner seems to fall for his charms even more because, although he seems aloof, he is so handsome. She sits beside him as he gobbles down food and tells him to eat to his heart's content, promising to come back for him after she takes care of some things. When they're alone, Chen asks Leo why he isn't eating. Leo lowers his head, stating that he doesn't have money with him to pay. However, Chen just smiles at him and declares that it's all his treat. Seeing how he devours food, Leo asks if he can truly afford the bill. Chen simply points at the promo of the bar, which says that if one person drinks 48 beers in a day, their entire bill is free. Leo is surprised by this, as it seems like an impossible challenge. Deep inside, Chen is confident in his abilities and asks the waiter to bring him the beers. He chugs down the bottle successfully, making the owner fall for him even more as he looks so charming while drinking. Meanwhile, Leo is in disbelief at how fast Chen is chugging down the beers. In an instant, he is able to down several bottles without getting drunk. The owner praises him for holding his liquor really well. After confirming that his friend is done eating, Chen eagerly tries to leave the bar with him. However, the owner tries to stop him since he hasn't paid the bill yet. He then states that he has drunk 50 bottles of liquor, so he doesn't have to pay a cent for their bill, adding that she can keep the 2 extra bottles as a tip. The woman is about to bark at them, but Chen looks at her with his charming face, making her shut up as she melts at how cool he looks. While walking home, Chen reveals his real identity to Leo, leaving him beyond shocked. Leo then asks how he suddenly lost so much weight. Chen is about to reveal his secret, but holds back and tells his friend that he had liposuction. Leo voices his concern, saying that their old boss is said to have ties with the mob, fearing that she will retaliate against them. Chen is concerned about his safety as well, especially since the owner doesn't know his real identity. With this, he calls the cops and reports that their boss's pub sells fake alcohol before dropping the call. Leo is doubtful about him making a false report, but Chen assures him that he didn't because he confirmed that the alcohol he drank earlier was fake. In fact, it didn't meet the required fat content, which he discovered. With this, they celebrate, knowing they were able to exact revenge on their ruthless boss and continue celebrating on their way home. The next day, a man reads the news about the bar being shut down after authorities discovered they were selling counterfeit booze. The man puffs his cigar, frustrated that someone messed with his bar. He then calls for his lackey and orders him to find the person behind this. In a convenience store, the two friends share a meal after losing their jobs. School is about to start, but they've lost their source of tuition funds. As Leo worries, Chen acts all fine, saying his parents left him enough money in the card for tuition. While his friend continues to worry, he assures him that he'll figure it out, even ordering 10 more bowls of noodles and acting like money isn't a problem. As he's been called, he certainly is a bottomless pit for food. At school, Chen tries to pay for his tuition, but is told that the card's balance was insufficient. He's absolutely shocked upon seeing the minuscule amount of money left in his account. The long line behind him began to murmur, and he's told that he has 3 more days left to pay. Standing aside as freezing for a moment, lost in thought, he suddenly pulls on his hair in frustration, knowing the system is burning through his money, as it's demanding so much food per day. He'll have to figure it out on his own, since his parents are likely struggling to earn enough for his sister's treatment. While he's deep in thought over this, Sheena and her friends walk by. One of the girls notices him, and they turn their attention to the attractive young man with messy hair, melancholic eyes, and long straight legs. Considering how unfamiliar he is, they conclude that he must be a freshman they've never met. One is certain that someone as cool as him wouldn't spare them a glance. However, the same surely can't be said for Sheena, who's the campus goddess that no man can stand. Calling her friends hopeless, she decides to play along, and makes her move to help them get closer to him. With a confident smile, she stepped forward and told them to watch closely. She approached subtly, but it's enough to get his attention. Chen noticed and recognized her immediately, and she's glad to see him looking over. That said, his painful memories rush in, and the image of her rejection replays in his mind. After his confession, she looked at him with disgusted eyes, calling him a useless pig, and saying a toad like him couldn't possibly match a swan like her. During this time, Sheena suddenly tripped over herself, and made a big deal over her fall. This is all part of her plan, as her acting is meant to make her fall into his arms, and lock eyes with a handsome young man. However, to her surprise, he doesn't move an inch and simply lets her bump into his chest. She tries to grasp why he didn't hold her steady, but pushes on and lightly holds his body, while apologizing for bumping into him. With her hand over his chest, she can feel the rapid beating of his chest, revealing the truth behind his cold reaction. She's certain that he's been caught in her charms, and has fallen for her in that instant. Unfortunately, when she looks up to meet his eyes, she's met with an odd gaze that's far from what she usually sees. While the girl is left completely bewildered, Leo calls out to Chen, saying he's been looking all over for him. Sheena's confusion grows even deeper as she hears the familiar name. Suddenly, the man she was leaning on disappeared, and she found herself on the ground, having fallen from the lack of support. While baffled by the sight, her friends don't fail to record the campus crushie's embarrassing moment, which turns from bad to worse as she pathetically reaches out to Chen. Without turning to face her, he says he'll become an internet celebrity thanks to her, and asks her not to fake an injury on the main road as she's blocking the way for others. The entire situation leaves the young woman appalled and insulted, and she nearly fumes from anger. On the other hand, her two friends quickly rush to the young man, fawning over his new appearance. Abandoned and alone, she stares at them in disbelief and calls them little witches. A crowd starts to form around Chen as they notice his change, and Leo kindly clears the path. While the two pass by, others also began to notice Sheena, who was supposed to hold dignity as their campus goddess. They snicker and hold their laughs as the young woman who has never been so insulted. Later on, the two friends have lunch in the academy, and Leo asks if his friend enjoyed his assist earlier. However, Chen couldn't answer, as he was too busy scarfing down his food. Finally putting his meal down for a second, tears fell as he expressed his heartfelt gratitude and admitted that he almost failed to hold back when the heartbreaker leaned on him after tripping. Moving back to the topic of his tuition funds, Leo offers to ask his parents for extra money in case he needs to be covered. Chen says there's no need to worry because he already has a plan in mind. Seeing his friend's confused face, he decides to enlighten him and shows his phone screen. On there was an ad for a streaming competition focused solely on gathering viewers through an eating show. Leo couldn't believe what he was being shown, but the young glutton was completely serious, saying no one could beat him in that field. The system doesn't say much to support him, instead reminding him of the remaining hours until energy depletion. Chen arrives at the venue for the competition, but scowls upon being met with an endless line of applicants. At the far end, he tells him to enjoy it while it lasts, sure that none will compare once the competition starts. After all, when it comes to food, there's no way for him to lose. 4 hours of standing in line later, his number is finally called on. He confidently stepped up to meet the judges, activating his skills to take over the entire tournament with ease. The show started, and the MC welcomed everyone to the ultimate foodie competition there was. Victory is decided by online voting through streaming and manual voting using the devices given to the live audience. By logging into the streaming platform's app, they can also watch all contestants' performances. While participation initially lasts 30 minutes, going below 5,000 viewers in the first half would lead to elimination. On the other hand, hitting the target increases streaming time. Once the entire competition ends, stats are tallied up, and those who rank among the top 10 unlock a chance to sign a deal and become an official streamer for the platform. Told to check their ranking at the bottom of their screens, the host counts down to the beginning of the show. As soon as things start, Chen drops to rank 777, with his body and mind tensing up. Seeing the camera shy, his face freezes, and his supposedly confident smile comes off as a Botox face. That said, he's watched plenty of food streams, so he must have a strategy to turn things around. He takes a blender out, flashily slamming it on the table, and intending to blend bizarre ingredients into juice to captivate the viewers. It isn't a bad move, since doing something change is certain to attract a level of intrigue. However, someone has the same idea as him, and Gao is already pouring a bunch of things into his blender. The 17th ranker starts off with a hefty amount of wasabi, fermented fish in a can, and tosses in a live female frog. Dissatisfied with the combination, he adds several chunks of stinky tofu into the mix, and finally activates the blender. After worrying for a while, a terrifyingly green liquid emerges from the foam. Suspiciously liking it to bubble tea, Gao names it life's bitter sip. Staring at it, he earns anger. anger and prompting from the viewers, who are telling him to stop stalling. Gripping his thigh tightly, the streamer downs the glass contents in one long chug. On the other hand, Chen can only watch with his pathetic vegetables, unable to believe that the competitor actually drank the mixture. He's also in awe of the sheer willpower and determination needed to gulp down something so horrific with practiced ease. His mouth has turned into an actual sewage tank, and using bizarre ingredients to win is out of the question. Called out for his weak will, he ignores the system and tries to rethink his strategy instead. He gets the idea of consuming something more bearable, but with a more striking visual. As a silkworm comes to mind, another streamer says such petty attempts lack style and flair. For him, fresh pig intestines with an unforgettable smell are far more bizarre. What's more, he's also prepared giant African scorpions, lifting them with chopsticks like a light snack. He puts the entire thing in his mouth, quickly preparing the filled intestines next. As Chen stared in horror, the system asked if he still wanted to eat pathetic silkworms. He racks his brains to think of something else to do and decides to rely on his charm, which is something he's particularly confident in. Based on his previous experiences, he's quite popular among middle-aged women. A familiar turn of events comes as the host suddenly gets all riled up with an announcement. With the first half of the game ending, Save the streamer has amassed 190,000 viewers, which is more than all the others combined. The feed swaps to focus on the person of interest, and they're shown a video of a beautiful woman. Without really doing anything different, she charms and captivates people with her looks, which are strong enough to affect even Chen. Thanking her viewers, she receives even more donations, coming in the form of various stickers through chat. She encourages them to keep going with a smile, satisfied with the current situation. Just like that, the once confident young glutton loses his confidence. Despairing, he scorns and ridicules himself for even thinking that he had a chance. The real stars of the competition include one with unyielding willpower, a freak of nature, and a true charmer. The system piles on, calling him a loser for even hoping to match them, and encouraging him to give up. On that note, he might as well get some last-minute calories in, as the food nearby is free anyway. With 3 minutes left on the clock, he absentmindedly chomps on a delicious little snack. Doing what he's best at, he blankly bites down on the fork as well, and eats the utensil along with the food. He looks at it surprised, not intending to do such a thing, and panics upon realizing the strangeness of what just happened. Just then, a rocket, the biggest of all blessings, came into his screen. While he's still surprised, a few other stickers poured in, signifying countless donations and viewership into his account. Several viewers subscribe, and his popularity grows as news of utensil consumption spreads far and wide. With this, Chen realizes that he might still have a chance. Looking right at the camera, Sei thanks the viewers for all their support. Every one of her viewers is smitten, as the young lady smiles and sends them hearts of gratitude. Hiding an arrogant smirk, she considers all her competitors amateurs, and believes she's perfect for streaming. Even in the current competition, she's likely to be crowned the champion, who laughs and looks down on the fools who desperately eat themselves to death. However, an unforeseen problem comes, as viewers begin to swap away from her channel to watch another's. Her eyes open wide in shock and confusion, as several people slip away, saying they're headed to streamer 213. Her viewer count rapidly drops by the thousands. Concern and indignation set it, as she questions who dares to ruin her plans. Chen tells his audience to pay attention to the perfectly seared steak on his table. Lifting it with a fork, he drizzles some sauce all over the divine slab of meat. While his viewer count skyrocketed, Sei watched on in frustration, questioning how eating a steak boosts popularity so fast. Munching on the protein, he says it's just the appetizer, and invites them all to watch as he moves on to the main course. The chat box is flooded with anticipation, and the young man slathers the plate with the steak's black pepper sauce. Messages flood in when he chomps on the dining ware, treating it like an entree. The scene leaves Sei flabbergasted and unable to believe what she just saw. He continues to chew on the hard plate, putting on a delighted expression and describing its texture as crunchy. Moving on, he then builds the tension by asking the audience if they believe that the plate is real or fake. Meanwhile, the competing streamers call him out for being fake, unable to believe that someone would actually eat a plate. That said, some experienced ones conclude that he's doing exactly what he's claiming to. Yao is already at the limit of his dark cuisine, but Chen's determination seems to far surpass his. Since he's a rival deserving of respect, the veteran admits defeat and even encourages the others to check him out. The system commends his idea of using controversial topics to pull a crowd. Fortunately, he isn't a stranger to creating trends, having personally suffered from an online issue in the past. Thinking about his acidic saliva, he concludes that he can't rely too much on either. The effects of plate eating are indeed striking, but once someone discovers his unusual constitution, he'll certainly be done for. As such, he decides to hold on just until the end of the round and savor the bullet comments during the final moments of the stream. Just then, countless spam messages flooded into the chat, trying to debunk his claim of eating a real plate. They called him out endlessly, all saying they have evidence of him faking his skill. Chen refuses to respond to anything and allows himself to be swept away in the strong current of hate comments. With things naturally flowing, he's carried on and ends halftime in 7th place. On the other hand, similar hate comments have reached Sei's account, most of which are calling her out for being boring. Other viewers come to her defense, and arguments ensue in her comment section. Reading everything, the young streamer puts on a tearful and hurt expression and asks everyone to keep it down. Since dining is a joyful experience for her, it's better to enjoy and not get upset regardless of the situation. Still crying, she says she'd be interested in seeing other streamers as well, and allows everyone to leave her and come back. Seeing her bow down in gratitude, countless protective comments fill her chat, replacing all the negative ones. Deep inside, her character isn't as innocent, as she scorns the streamer who took her viewers away. Meanwhile, even her main sponsor, Director Zurin, sees what's happening and bangs his fist on the table in frustration. He demands to know what's happening, but even the secretary has no idea, aside from the fact that Chen was gaining massive popularity. If something goes wrong in the competition, neither of them will be able to handle the consequences. With the first half done, those ranked below 30 are eliminated, and the game will resume after a short break. In the restroom, the system asks Chen why he still goes there, despite his skill removing its necessity. As he explains that it's a relieving escape for him, a loud noise makes him jump to his feet. Worried, he heads to the source of the flush and waits by the stall doors despite the weirdness of it all. As the noises continue, he begins worrying for the person inside and is afraid that something bad might have happened. Just then, the toilet user opened the door. Sei was inside, and she looked down at the young man who was waiting by the door. She asks the weirdo what he was doing, silently recognizing the streamer. He says he heard continuous vomiting and went over to check if something bad had happened. Furious and insulted, she began questioning what he heard. While he's just confused over her reaction, she just takes it as a challenge, believing that he must be playing dumb in one way or another. Since he might be waiting for her to lay the terms down, she steps forward to take the initiative and confirms his identity as a competitor in the competition. Since he heard it anyway, she goes on about self-induced vomiting, which is undoubtedly bad for the body. She's well aware of the side effects, but her chosen career path isn't as flexible as she'd want it to be. If word gets out, her fans might end up leaving, which is the worst case scenario for her. She calls to him softly, trembling and calling herself a selfish lady. Caught in her web, he assures her that this isn't the case at all and sees her as a really strong woman. Taking his hand, she looks up to his eyes with tears streaming down and asks him to keep it all a secret. If others were to find out that she forces herself to throw up, she'd never survive the industry. Desperate to please the lady, Chen vows that her secret is safe with him. Something feels off, but she just wipes her tears with a smile, saying she knew how good a person he was just from one look. With this, the two go their separate ways, bidding each other well wishes for the competition. As he waved goodbye, the system called her unfathomable, a description he agrees with for other reasons. Meanwhile, Sei found herself in an isolated area and called Zurin immediately, demanding personal details about him in the next 20 seconds. In the control room, Zurin screams out loud in surprise as he's asked to change the rules of the competition. Sei has personally come to make the request, but was promptly rejected as revising the rules at the last minute was far too risky a movement. They stare each other down, neither willing to give in. She knows her demand will leave them in a tough spot, but she insists that she has to win no matter what. Tearing up, she says she isn't as young as she used to be and that it's her last chance as a streamer. If she lets her fans down now, she'll also disappoint the director even more. What's more, something everyone is aware of is the fact that the production team's been helping her without Zurin. Without all of them, she wouldn't have gotten that far in the first place. Now, if her ranking drops all of a sudden, the person she owes the most is the director, and she can't possibly fall short of his trust and expectations. Falling silent for a moment, the director then sheds a waterfall of tears and shouts at his crew, telling them that they're changing the rules of the game immediately. As ordered, the MC announces the beginning of the first half and the abrupt change of rules for the second. The ranking criteria of their contestants has changed from combining various metrics to primarily starlight points, telling the viewers to cheer their favorite streamer on. The man continues the competition. With this unexpected change, Chen's huge advantage has suddenly disappeared in an instant. It sounds unfair and too favorable for those with established fans, but he believes that his new viewers will come through. However, this confidence doesn't last long as he sees his name rapidly dropping in the leaderboard. Stunned silent for a moment, he screams in desperation. He was at the top of the popularity board, but was dragged down by the garbage rule that's putting his livelihood at stake. Since so many people are watching, he doesn't want to keep eating plates either, as it might blow up and affect his personal life. The system insists that indecision is the path to defeat, but he vows to think of something else and refuses to give in. The second half just started, and he just needs a bit more time to think about his next move. On the other hand, Save was thriving just as much as she was at the beginning of the competition. With the rules changed, her starlight points shoot her to the top of the ranking, and the boost she asked for is really working their magic. Now acting as the queen of the competition, she simply cannot be beaten and stands atop everyone with the power to put competitors out of their misery. She sends Zurin a message, asking him to unleash the bot army against Chen. As he blocked her path once, she floods his live stream room with usernames. There are thousands and thousands of viewers, but with little to no gifts, he's quickly accused of hiring bots. As such, he even receives threats, despite him knowing nothing about their sudden presence. In no time, his comment section is filled with negative comments, most of which are ordering him to stop faking and leave right away. He helplessly tries to fight for his innocence and asks everyone to calm down. However, they have no intention of doing so, and he's being completely ignored and dragged down all of a sudden. In the end, he has to rely on his skills to turn things around. In the control room, Zurin tells his men to keep the bots coming. To him, Seiyu's win is the priority, and the downfall of a random player is a small price to pay. Just then, a gold badge appeared on Chen's stream, declaring the presence of a VIP and shocking the veterans plotting against him. According to the username, the visitor is protecting the best streamer. Upon seeing the VIP donor, the other viewers get to work and tell him to leave that instant. Meanwhile, in a regal room somewhere, a young master is told that 800,000 has been transferred to his account. From then on, super rockets were continuously and endlessly sent to Chen's stream, boosting his starlight points in the competition's last moments. Everyone lets out screams of absolute shock. The trail of rocket stickers doesn't end, and his donor seems to be rich beyond words. Meanwhile, the streamer has nearly passed out from the unexpected donations and could only let out an awkward thank you. With this, he gets blasted to the top of the rankings once more, but the rockets still don't stop coming as his donor seems to be filling his screen with stickers. The countdown finally hits 0, and the competition finally comes to an end. The MC has no words either, and barely wraps things up by saying that results will be posted online later at night. Just like that, the eventful day ends, and Chen heads home feeling absolutely confused. Regardless, he pumps his fist in delight, certain that he ended up winning the entire thing. While planning to celebrate with Leo, he suddenly sees a familiar face in a car parked on the road. It's Seiyu, who excitedly greets and asks if he wants to eat out. He bashfully declines, saying he has plans with friends, and she takes it surprisingly well. With that, the two part ways without any trouble, and he's thankful to have met such a kind-hearted girl, unaware of the things she did to stop him from winning. She left him coolly, but now that she was driving alone, she gritted her teeth in anger, vowing to crush him eventually. At school, Chen calls Leo on the phone, telling him to meet him at the school gate right away. Suddenly, an odd silhouette approached from behind, saying he took his time. Confused, he turns back and sees Sheena, with a snarky look on her face. Having heard about his tuition situation, she mocks the young man, reminding him that the payment deadline is tomorrow. Her unprovoked insults anger him, but she just continues, saying he can't shed his poverty the way he shed his weight. As she's going on about him being a toad for life, a large hand suddenly pushed her away, making her scream in surprise. Barely keeping her footing, she furiously turns to see who dares push her. However, her expression immediately changes, upon seeing a well-dressed and imposing man named Hugo. With a soft smile, she asks why he pushed her, joking that he's always so rough. The girl clings to him, wondering if he's come to have a date, or give the bag he promised last time. Coldly looking into her eyes, he orders her to take her filthy hands off him. His tone and harsh words stun Sheena, who isn't used to such treatment. Unfortunately, he just doubles down, screaming at her to shut up, as no one asked her to speak. Moving on, he quickly makes his way to Chen with a serious face. It softens up for some reason, and the cold man asks why he didn't tell him. Having no clue what he's talking about, the young man asks for a bit of clarification. Hugo says he should have said so if he had money problems, but his financial issues have nothing to do with him. Hating how he keeps on acting tough, he says he knows all about the eating contest. Shocked that other people know, Chen is told to go online, and remembers that they were supposed to announce the results soon. Scrolling through the articles, he sees the competition announcement, which declared Seiyu as the winner. While several congratulated her, one comment noted how they saw someone else win that day. Hugo tries to cheer him up over the loss, promising that he'll always be number one in his heart. Once more, he asks him to approach him if he ever runs into any trouble at all. Acting strong as expected, Chen insists that the championship is a non-issue, as long as he has his tuition paid off. Declining the offered help for now, he smiles at Hugo, thanking him for the encouragement regardless. Sheena approaches the cold man, asking why he isn't helping her instead, and pouting as she complains about him having changed. Turning back, he curtly tells the girl that Chen is unlike anyone she's ever known. Moving on, Chen paid his tuition with the competition reward and has invited Lacey to lunch. Just then, the system tells him that he's accumulated a lot of points and suggests leveling up first. Virtual screens suddenly appear before his eyes, showing how his evolution tree has unlocked a new icon. He's urged to work on the mother nest in the center. It's a force that bestows mysterious powers on the ruler, often called ethereal energy, and brings overwhelming powers. Reading something about traveling through space, Chen gets excited and asks for an explanation. However, he's given a lengthy and difficult to digest description, prompting him to make it stop. With his head spinning from it all, he decides to opt out of the upgrade altogether. The system is astonished and asks why he doesn't want to get stronger despite the opportunity. Thanks to the power, he's slimmed down perfectly and has sorted his finances out. From then on, he'll be raking in cash while working and is content with keeping things running smoothly. The system asks if he's really okay with that and calls him a truly carefree being when he expresses his desire for a modest life that's free from the pursuit of power. Spotting Lacey, he puts their conversation on pause for now and waves at the friend he hasn't seen in a long time. Hearing her name called out, she turns to face Chen and smiles upon seeing him. However, a van suddenly stops behind her, and a man comes out to knock her out with chloroform. She's dragged inside the vehicle, which then speeds off before Chen could catch up to stop them. Panting in exhaustion, Chen gets off his bike, absolutely spent after following the van that took Lacey. He managed to follow it to the right spot, and now bravely stepped toward a warehouse, determined to save his friend no matter what it takes. He snuck around, eager to see what was happening, but careful enough to keep himself hidden. A couple of men are guarding the entrance, and they're both armed with dangerous weapons. The sight of it strikes fear in his heart, and he hides behind the van, now questioning if he made the right decision to follow them. Mocked by the system, he asks if he has any skills to activate during this time. One available allows him to summon a minion at the cost of a few energy points. He does just that, but the only creature he can summon at his level is one meant for reconnaissance. As he goes through with his decision, the system proceeds with the summoning as asked. A scout-type insect appears, boasting mobility and a field of vision that's shareable with the host. Carrying it on his finger, Chen orders for Lacey's pheromones to be extracted. After a while, the analysis is finished and is sent to the scout's brain. Its master tells it to go on and find his friend for him. With this, the little insect flew high, infiltrating the enemy base. Meanwhile, Lacey was inside the warehouse and was really awakened by a cold splash of water on her head. To her surprise, she finds herself tied up and surrounded by burly men. A few more shady figures appear before her, snickering and coming too close. She tries to scream as loud as she can, but only muffled cries come out of her covered mouth. The bald man, seemingly the leader of the group, tells his henchmen to shut her up. Someone immediately approached from behind and threatened her with a knife to the neck. With her silent, the man then goes on about how Chen caused several problems for them. As such, she's told to blame him for what's happening to her, as she's his girlfriend after all. During all this, the scout surveyed from nearby, relaying what was happening to its master. However, it gets killed out of nowhere, mistaken for a buzzing little bug. Chen winces from the sudden death of his minion, but things start falling into place as he realizes the people they're dealing with. He beats himself up for letting his guard down, but now is not the time for regret. Based on the scout, Lacey is on the 4th floor, and a few guards are stationed on the lower levels. Charging in head-on isn't an option, since every entrance is guarded by heavily armed men. He pulls on his hair in frustration, wondering what he can do to save his friend. Just then, he sees a familiar card in his pocket and decides to to ask for help. A secretary's phone rings, and she readily asks if there's anything he might require. To her confusion, she asks for blueprints for a certain building. Later on, Chen acquires what he needs and makes his way into the drainage system. He descends while arguing with the system and eventually reaches the bottom, lighting his way up with nothing but his phone's flashlight. He hurries up as Lacey's life is on the line. Pulling the blueprints up again, he checks the exact area he's in and his distance from the hostage. Heading for the drainage exit in the building, he moves straight ahead. The entire area is moist and dripping with sewage water. Soon enough, hopelessness hits his heart as he sees the supposed exit blocked by wreckage. He was so close and only needed to move in a few more meters. While wondering if he needs another plan, he receives a call from Lacey's phone. Answering the video call, the leader's face, ridiculously covered in stockings, shows up on the screen. After an awkward pause, the two flinch back in surprise. The man soon gets to business and tells Chen that his girlfriend is in their hands. Interrupted by his voice saying they aren't together, he tells the boy to shut up and lets him know their current location, unaware that he's already there. However, he's warned against calling the cops in any way, unless he wants her face scarred terribly. Seeing her tearful expression, he screams her name in worry, but the line dies as the call is dropped. There's only an hour and a half left before the designated time, and he punches the blockage in frustration. He questions if he really has to trade himself in for her safety, and punches again out of frustration for his uselessness. Just then, the rocks cracked and gave away, making him fall into the hole it was blocking. He falls far down, and his heart felt like it was sinking lower by the second. Looking up the empty space, he sees a bunch of beams from top to bottom, and he gets an idea of where he might be. Considering the structure of most buildings and looking into the blueprint, he realizes that he must be directly at the bottom of the building. Intrigued, he dusts himself off and calls to the system, saying he'll build a hive right there. With this, a bolt of blue energy began spreading from his body toward the floors and walls. As blue virtual streaks rained down on them, the system told Chen that he needed 3 sections: the chamber, nursery, and food storage, to build the hive. The layout must harmonize with the planet's climate and geography. As the first step, it surveys the land to get precise geographical data. The blueprint of the hive is far more intricate than expected, and if they want to place a hive there, there's another thing they need. Walking around the area, he takes a few measurements of the walls and load capacity. He inputs the data into the system, allowing it to make calculations and soon pinpoints a spot with unusually high hardness and a labyrinth of surface structures. Honestly speaking, building the hive there isn't the wisest choice. Should he insist on doing so, the building will surely collapse. While this sounds dangerous, it's exactly what he wants. He's urged to reconsider his decision, especially as he's low on fat reserves. Looking at his stats, he asks what'll happen if it fails. Unfortunately, this scenario will surely end with his death. That said, he already has a solution to ensure their success. The chosen spot is 17 meters above Lacey, and a few calculations will tell him how to perfectly spread the localized load. After a few moments, he chooses the intended spot and proceeds with the hive upgrade without hesitation. The system boots up and completes loading the data. Immediately after, the hive rooting sequence is initiated. Chen raises his hand, willing bolts of energy to shoot out. If life won't let him stay ordinary, then people just have to brace themselves for his brilliance. Just then, the system blared warning alarms as his fat was being extracted at a rate far higher than expected. His reserves neared critical levels, and he needed to replenish his fat immediately. While the rate was a surprise, the general outcome was something he expected. They keep going, soon reaching 20% completion. As rubble falls on his head, he tries to hang on a little more, but is told that he's run out of reserves and will turn into a dried husk if they continue. However, he refuses to stop, determined to get things done whatever it takes. Huge blocks of steel and concrete fall by his feet. Given his irregular pulse, the system tries to preserve itself and starts to destroy the hive. The self-destruct timer began to count down, and at the last second, his fat reserves began increasing. As it kept adding up, construction was able to resume. He found it odd during the eating competition. He barely ate any food, and yet gained so many fat points. Shoving the blocks of concrete and steel rods into his mouth, he replenished his resources. This proves his hypothesis that anything with energy can be converted into fat points. The young man smiles, having realized the true power of his skill. The system commends him for being resourceful, but consuming and extracting simultaneously will leave his body broken due to the repeated process of straining and rebuilding. Chen falls to the ground, groaning on his knees. It's true that it's painful, but the method has proven to be effective, so he shoves another metal rod inside his mouth. Soon after, the hive completion reaches 70%. The system doesn't stop his reckless act, but says they have an idea of how he's going to save Lacey. Coughing and reaching his limit, he finds himself impressed and says the system is sharper than they look. In the abandoned building, the captors play a few card games, leaving the girl tied to the chair. As she tears up, not knowing what's waiting for her, the floor suddenly begins to shake. They wonder what that sound was, but curiosity soon turns into worry. As the light hanging above them started to sway, knowing something was wrong, the men stood up, ready to move. The lamp fell, crashing to the ground and breaking. Realizing the danger they were in, the thugs quickly ran to save themselves, leaving Lacey tied up and unable to flee to safety. At that moment, the entire building toppled over. A car speeds across the road. Inside it is Hugo, who tells someone on the phone that he's got things figured out. He looks out the window with a curious expression. He gave Chen his card just earlier, but didn't expect him to get in touch on the same day. Thinking about the blueprints of a building older than him, he wonders why it was requested. After a while of driving, they reach the said building and get out. However, he sees that it seems to be swinging and wonders if he's just car sick. To their absolute shock, it comes crashing down, forcing them to rush to safety. He has no idea what was happening, but it's clear who was behind it. The smoke and dust eventually settled after the collapse, and Chen climbed his way out of everything. The only thing left standing was the room his friend was in, which he encased in a shield. According to his calculations, the room was in a dead end, so she should be okay. He checks on the thugs that are out cold, but are also protected by a shield. Finally, he finds Lacey sitting and tied up. She's unconscious but safe nonetheless. Hearing a familiar voice telling her to wake up, the girl slowly opened her eyes and saw Chen saying he came to rescue her. He hurriedly asks if she's hurt anywhere and hugs her in relief after confirming that she's all okay. Blaming himself for everything she went through, he apologizes sincerely. Since it was a huge incident, police soon arrived at the scene. In addition to checking on those who were endangered, they also arrest the kidnappers. They confirm Chen's statement, saying he was following his missing classmate when the building suddenly collapsed. Finally turning to Hugo, the cop asks if he spotted any suspicious characters. Seeing the 2 young students in front of him, he remains silent at first, then says he didn't see anyone and just witnessed the building fall. The man closes his logbook and tells his subordinate to check on the owner of the fallen site. The young heir says there's no need as he can just talk to him. Not getting it at first, the police warn him of obstructing their investigation. To clarify, Hugo calms them down and takes his wallet out. He explains who he is and that his family owns the entire land the building is on. He goes further, saying the abandoned building was already up for demolition. Running the incident off as fate that it collapsed on itself, he chuckled. Getting things straight, no one was hurt aside from the kidnappers. It's exactly as it seems. He's been on the force for a while, but has never encountered such a situation. They tell the young ones to get into the patrol car, making them worry about arrest. However, it's far from that, as they're just giving them a ride back to school. In the car, the 3 awkwardly sit at the back, silence filling the space. Chen apologizes to Lacey again, but she assures him that it isn't his fault. Many things happened, but it allowed them to realize several things. The young man then turns to Hugo and thanks him for all the help he provided. Seeing them interact unsettles the girl, knowing full well that the heir is no saint. Meanwhile, the rich young man wonders if she even deserves an apology. The tension is oddly high as the 2 shoot daggers with their eyes. Confused over what might have happened, Chen awkwardly laughs it off. Later on, someone bangs their hand on the table. Student Council President Yudo says they absolutely cannot falter this time. America's top Ivy League school will send them a student for academic exchange. With the school's reputation on the line, they have to tighten campus discipline. Sheena, also a council member, puts makeup on and backs the president's thoughts. He seems prim and proper, but as soon as a car speeds past her, ruining her hair, she screams in anger, losing all her composure. It was a police car, and she saw Chen's group step outside to talk to an officer. Still spiteful, she listens closely, eager to find something to use against him. She smiles slyly, saying he's plain unlucky to have stumbled into Yudo's path. The woman exclaims and points to the group, loudly asking why a student is getting mixed up with the police. Concerned, the president asks if she knows him, and she sees her chance. The devious girl then says he's someone who's been clinging to her nonstop. Moreover, he's been hanging out with Hugo, who everyone knows is bad news. Immediately getting a nasty expression, Chen, Yudo concludes that they must be similar scoundrels. He glares at them, oozing with disdain, and says such shameless people should not be allowed in their school. A sneeze rings throughout Chen's home. Since it's been happening all afternoon, he wonders if someone is bad-mouthing him. While wondering what's wrong, his phone chimes with a new notification. It's an invitation asking him to come to a ceremony for newcomers. Based on the description alone, he realizes that it must be a fancy dinner. As such, he looks through his wardrobe, checking to see what he should wear. Getting an idea, he pulls a drawer open, containing a gift from his parents, which was meant for his coming-of-age ceremony. An old photo shows him wearing the formal wear set. He tries it on again, pulling on the tie and locking his belt in. However, it doesn't fit as well as before, given the huge weight loss transformation he went through recently. Just then, his belly suddenly began to grow, pushing on the shirt and sending the buttons flying. He's shocked as he sees his shirt pop open, ruined by his bulging belly. Feeling like something was about to happen, he rushed out, struggling to carry himself. He moved as fast as his legs allowed him to, and he eventually reached the bathroom, where loud sounds soon echoed from. Later on, he exited a stall, clinging to the door and walls as his legs were weak. Looking grim, he blames the system, certain it's their fault. Looking at a glowing egg in his hands, he tells it to explain. As they nonchalantly say that it's an egg, he gets frustrated and orders the system to explain why a grown man just laid it. It's supposedly a reward for upgrading the brood last night. Wondering what's inside it, he's told to figure things out himself, and once it hatches, he should have the power to dominate the earth. Chen sighs and says he has no time for nonsense now. He has no intention of ruling the earth and just wants to protect people he cares about. The day progresses, and he's back in school as usual. When he entered the lecture hall, female classmates took immediate notice, saying they hadn't seen him in a while. As he looks even better, they joke about finding a chubby partner and shaping him up. Meanwhile, the class representative, annoyed that they're always talking about Chen, coughing to clear the air, he joins their conversation and asks what they're talking about. He recalls how they talked about a limited edition shirt before and wore it today to show them. Believing that people are judged by their clothes, he brandishes the rare top with a smile. They say it matches his hair well, but comment that it might be too big for his body. Then, proceeding to mention Chen, he turns away in frustration at the ridiculously lovesick fool. While sulking in his seat, his phone chimes with a new message. He takes a look and is surprised to see a photo of the annoying student from last night. In disbelief, he questions if he was really delivered to school in a police car. Over, Hugo is with them. It must have been some off-campus trouble. Believing that he's finally gotten him cornered, he smiles in anticipation. On the other hand, Chen is sitting quietly, wondering about the possible purpose of the egg he laid. Just then, the representative approached, calling his name with a loud voice, saying the school is not a lawless land. He reminds him that the heavens are always watching. Given his raised voice, other students began to chatter and speak. The school bell rang and the teacher entered, telling everyone to return to their seats for class. With their conversation interrupted, the representative says he won't get away with it. As the lecture progressed, Chen was left confused, unable to remember how he offended him. He recalls their first year, when he tripped and pulled the student's pants down. That said, he was forgiven in front of everyone. In their sophomore year, he asked him for Lacey's number, and she invited him to their dinner. Tagging along, he was told to order whatever he wanted, so he ended up eating 6 lobsters. While the representative was shocked by the bill, he doubts it is the reason. In the same year, they went to study on the field and shared a tent. When he snuck out to cook a snack, Chen's hanging underwear fell into the pot, but it wasn't his fault. Feeling innocent in the end, he's left stumped, except for the idea that his handsomeness is inherently attracting enemies. The class will end in 10 minutes, and the representative is determined to show his true colors. Moreover, he wants him to receive a disciplinary action and make it clear that he doesn't deserve to be in the same class. As the bell rang, he quickly got up, ready to rush to the counselor's office. The teacher stopped him, saying he still had an announcement. Smiling and thinking he must already know, the student sat back down, smiling at the thought of him being punished in front of the class. However, all the teacher says is something about an upcoming holiday. Frustrated, he sits patiently, willing the announcement to end. Finally, they're all dismissed. As he gets up, he notices Chen missing from his chair and decides to hurry up as well. Pushing with his legs, he ran across the halls at full speed, exhilarated by the thought of his nemesis getting in big trouble. He zooms past other students, not caring that he's knocking them over, as he's waited years for this chance. For him, it isn't about the money he spent on 6 lobsters, nor his pants that were tugged down, showing his undergarments. He believes he's doing it for the class, not personal grudges. Rounding the corner, he's reached his destination and catches his breath. Right behind the next door is his opportunity. Finally, his moment has come, and he wastes no time turning the knob. The door opens, and the blinding light is akin to heaven's gates. However, to his surprise, he sees 2 figures inside. Beside the teacher was Chen, who says it's a coincidence to see him there. Seeing the confused representative out of breath, he offers a glass of water. Unwilling to let go of hope, he chuckles, saying he must be crazy to come to the counselor's office himself. Meanwhile, at the sight of the building that fell, one man speaks to his boss and reaches to the sky, saying he can feel a nest's breath. The class representative smirks, saying his nemesis has willingly entered hell himself. As he's about to tell the teacher about him, the adult cuts in, saying the young man has really nailed it. He takes something that just came straight from the precinct. It's a banner about Chen capturing a group of criminals. Told to show it to the class, the representative is filled with disdain. Although he follows instructions, his face shows that he's being forced, as he calls to his classmate. Counting down, the photographer tells them to smile just a bit brighter. The camera flashes and snaps a photo of 2 students, posing with the banner. They're in front of the entire class, and the other students also snap photos with their phones. Since he has several important connections, the representative is told to post it on social media. He silently refuses, not wanting to be embarrassed more, but the teacher promises to even check his newsfeed later on. Meanwhile, Chen misunderstands him, thinking he looks exhausted out of worry for them. As such, he runs after him, earning nothing but more spite. With a bright smile, he invites the representative to the dinner party, adding that his favorite influencer will be there. Seeing a photo of Save on the phone, annoyance fills his body, and he says he just wants to laugh at him even more. The boy defends himself, saying it isn't so, but the representative is already too offended and runs off the supposed hypocrisy. He tries to call him back, but is left alone in the hall. Night falls, and the time for the dinner party comes. Inside, Chen's mouth opens in shock as he witnesses what high society parties are like for the first time. Everyone there is talented, eloquent, and absolutely far from his usual crowd. Passing by several people in suits, he takes a look around and feels like things are way too fancy. The buffet comes into sight, and there's an unbelievable amount of scrumptious food, all just waiting to be consumed. One butler tells him to enjoy as he sees fit, nearly making him jump in joy. It's pure bliss for him, so he quickly accepts the offer and indulges. Meanwhile, in a private room in the manor, a young lady gets ready and puts on makeup. Paired with a perfectly tailored dress, Save is sure to be the star of the show. As planned, she's welcomed as the main event, and she greets everyone with a bright smile fitting a celebrity. A representative asks her to comment on rumors about the competition's champion being predetermined. After a moment of thought, she says the competition is live and cannot be faked. Without losing her composure, she insists that only fools fall for such rumors. Satisfied with her answer, the crowd claps. Reveling in their applause, she curses Chen for even trying to go against her. She sees a familiar silhouette seated at the table. Chen is still eating, with plates piled endlessly. A cook ran back to the kitchen, alerting the chef as their food supply couldn't keep up. The main chef panics and asks who's eating so much to leave a mountain of empty plates. The crowd also began to take notice, impressed by the fervor in his consumption. Watching as Chen kept on guzzling food and drinks down, even they started to get hungry. He even ate before coming there, and was now famished again. One man cautiously approached, excusing himself for interrupting, and greeted his signing as a food live streamer. They originally planned a campaign for Seiyu, but found that his style better fit their brand, and offered a collaboration. His card identified him as Chen, the executive director of food company. Intrigued, the young man takes the card, but Seiyu just couldn't accept it. Her uncle worked so hard to connect with that company, which is one of the giants in the industry. She approached Chen, ready to put a stop to it, and said she'd been looking all over for him. As she takes his arm, he blushes from the unexpected contact. Saying she lost something in the parking lot, she asks for his help. Her pretty face manages to convince him immediately, so he excuses himself from Chen for a moment. The director tells him to go ahead, adding that he'll wait for his reply. The two reach the dark parking lot, where she asks him to find a necklace from her mother. She blames herself, unable to believe that she lost it. He bends down with his flashlight, eager to help her as much as he can. She watches him, silently looking over at 2 figures hiding in the dark. As soon as he hands him the necklace, she'll pretend to trip and fall. At that moment, her hired photographers will capture the moment and make it look like he pushed her after being rejected. Once the story breaks, her reputation will shine and leave him ripped to shreds. As she blames him for always getting in her way, Chen exclaims, saying he's found it. He raises something up, asking if it's the necklace she's looking for. However, he's confused as she suddenly begins laughing like a witch. As planned, she trips and falls on her own. The young man tries to reach out and catch her, but it's too late, and she falls to the ground with a loud thud. Cameras flash as her hired men do their job, capturing the exact moment. Looking back, Chen notices what just happened, and the dull men even give a foolish thumbs up. She's in disbelief as they can't even step back to take a proper shot. Just then, Sei was bumped to the side as the car she was leaning on suddenly opened up. To her surprise, a woman barely dressed properly stepped out in a rush. Annoyed over being interrupted, the streamer demands to know who she is, but they notice someone else step out of the open door. Looking on, they see a familiar face, who asks what they're all doing there. Yudo steps out of the car, seeing what they're all doing there. He appears with several kiss marks on his face and asks if they're spying on him. Sei recognizes him and realizes he's been making out with a waitress in the car. The hired photographers speak up, acting bashful and saying it's all a misunderstanding. Without hesitation, they point to Chen, saying it's him they were spying on. Annoyed, the streamer tells him to shut up and leave. Yudo feels like he understands the situation and acts haughty, saying he didn't expect her to be a two-faced diva who's desperate to be famous. Coming close, he says she's disgraced her uncle's name. As the two stare each other down, Chen is hit with confusion and betrayal. He asks why she would do this, but she just glares at him, saying he already knows why. Yudo tells them both to stop, as he isn't interested in their drama. He writes a check for $500,000 and tells the stupid paparazzi to go away. Without hesitating, they accept the money and leave with Seiyu. Looking at her, Chen can't help but feel that she's a completely different person. He then speaks to Yudo, who seems to know about him. Still thinking that he's Hugo's lackey, he's surprised that he made it to a high-end party. Considering his looks, he asks the handsome student if he's looking to seduce an older woman. Pushing harder, he questions the type of parents who raise someone like him. He points rudely, saying his clothes reek of poverty and insects. Another check is thrown as he's told to buy something decent and stop embarrassing himself. Walking away, he sees the check fall to the ground and tells Chen to drop the act and pick it up. After all, his parents wouldn't even come close to making that amount in a year. Finally seeing him pick it up, Yudo scoffs, calling him a clown as he leaves. Left alone with the money, the system asks if he's actually going to take it. Money really does let people do whatever they want, and he even wrote such a huge sum without batting an eye. Chen crumpled the paper, furious as his parents have been insulted. He tells the system to block all security cameras in the area with bugs. With his car right there, the young man thinks of the perfect gift to leave him with. Back inside, the young man shook Chen's hand, officially accepting his partnership offer. Since time isn't on their side, they signed right away with high hopes. Just then, the host began to speak, welcoming everyone and priming them for the opening act. As he was about to leave, Chen saw Yudo. Annoyed, he asks the system to leave another gift. It asks for some instructions that are a bit more specific. It's told to turn the president into a monkey and embarrass him in front of the women. It's childish, but he tells it to wait until they're close enough. The president danced around with someone, and as they got closer, Chen prepared to send his attack out. As planned, the system's attack activated successfully, and the right moment came as they approached. However, just as they launched, the two dancers turned, and they hit the woman instead. With blank eyes, she suddenly stopped moving, prompting Yudo to check if there was something wrong. As Chen worried about hitting the wrong target, the woman was filled with rage and started breathing hard. Like an ape, she raised her arms high, nearly roaring as she stood over him. The president panicked, afraid of what might happen to him. However, she moved too fast and gripped his arm. Suddenly he was spinning, swung around by her unexpected strength. It was supposed to be 5% berserker mode, but this is clearly 100. That said, it might not be too bad. Seeing him scream for his life, the bodyguards there leapt into action and did their best to subdue the girl immediately. Chen smiled in satisfaction, seeing him vomit all over the floor. Still reeling from nausea, Yudo orders his men to bring him to the car. He wobbles on the way to the parking lot, cursing the terrible night. Just then, he notices his car tires are completely gone, so he screams out, demanding to know who took them. Meanwhile, Chen appeared, boasting about his scooter that can pass traffic. Seeing him, the president grabs the boy by the collar, accusing him of taking his tires. He smiles, saying he has no need for tires since he's driving a scooter. Yudo refuses to let go, unwilling to leave things unsolved. Someone clapped from nearby. Approaching, the woman's voice scolded him for dressing all proper but bullying a poor boy. A woman with a charismatic aura calls him out, saying it's an eye-opening sight. He argues that he has no need for such things, but she just tells him to let go, unless he wants the cops involved. Getting sick of it, he finally questions who's sticking her nose into their business and tells her to cool off somewhere else. She charged in and quickly planted her foot into his gut. The president is sent flying across the pavement, left unconscious as he foamed at the mouth. She looks down, satisfied with the punishment she delivered. Chen is stunned, not knowing who this newcomer is.